everybody, hope you're keeping well. Today I am going to show you how to make some festive donuts. This is the recipe I was alluding to recently in one of my videos. Unfortunately, people didn't seem to go for the homemade Christmas mincemeat at my recent charity sale, so I've got plenty left. I also have two shop bought ones that my mill bought cheap for 20p a jar a couple of years ago. They seem fine. I've had a peek at the jar and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with them at all. They will get used at some point next year most probably. I'm mindful to use them soon. But for now we will use some of mine. Now the pot jar I had, after filling a few of these during my mincemeat video, got used for something else. In actual fact, it went in the Christmas pudding. So this is a new one. Oh, smells beautiful. It's strongly of alcohol and lots of those dried and candied fruits. Yum. Now you can do this recipe by hand. However, it's easier if you do have a stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, you need to do kneading for maybe 15 minutes. So it depends how your muscle tone is. It's getting on in the day now, so I'm going to cheat and use my stand mixer. This recipe is one that proves, then gets knocked back and put in the refrigerator overnight. And then tomorrow it'll take us several hours before the donuts are ready to fry. So I think on that note, we should get started. The first thing to do is to weigh out 500 grams of strong bread flour. This is French bread flour. It's absolutely gorgeous. So here's the flour. Now what I do is get the mixing bowl from the stand mixer and put the flour into a sieve and sieve it. This gives it a lighter dough. Just like that. That's how it looks. Next, I am going to add 60 grams of caster sugar. Now, if you haven't got golden caster sugar, I haven't, you can just use white caster sugar. And then that goes in the stand mix bowl. Then we're going to add a 7-gram sachet of dried yeast. If you have fresh yeast, use 15 grams. That's great, but I can't get hold of any fresh yeast, so I've got dried yeast. You put that on one side of the mixture in the stand bowl. And on the other side of the mixture, I put 2 teaspoons of fine sea salt. It's really important at this stage that the salt and the yeast do not come into direct contact with one another. If the salt comes into contact with the yeast, it will kill the yeast. The next thing to do is to add 4 eggs. Just crack them into the bowl, just as they are. Next, we need the zest of about half a lemon. This is an unwaxed lemon. Try to use the unwaxed variety if you can, because after all, wax is a coating. Lastly, I have 150 millilitres of water. It's just normal cold water. Then put the bowl on the mount and then attach the dough hook to the machine. And then just put it on medium. Don't forget to scrape the sides down periodically. It all needs to be mixed really well. Switch the machine off before you do this to avoid any accidents. Now you can see it's starting to come away from the sides of the bowl. See how elastic it is and sticky. We're going to add some softened butter now. We're going to add it in stages. I have 125 grams of butter. I'm going to add it in small amounts while the mixer is going round on medium again. That's all quite well incorporated now, so we're going to give it 5 minutes on high. Now, do you see how elastic that is when pulled? That's about right. So we're going to cover the bowl now with some cling film, plastic wrap that is, or a tea towel until it's doubled in size. I'm going to use a tea towel. This is the donut dough. You can see how it's risen. I am now going to coat my hands with some flour and put a bit of flour in there because it's very sticky, and I'm going to give it a very light knead. And just try and bring it together. It's still very sticky, but putting some flour on your hands will help it from sticking to your hands and getting in an absolute mess. That looks already better texture. We've just put a bit more on the hands. You can see that's starting to come together a lot better now. Don't be afraid of using quite a bit of flour when you come to give it a light knead. It's almost like doing a sourdough. Make sure that all that flour is incorporated into the dough. I'm going to try and get it as smooth as possible. So there we are. And then that now gets covered. I'll probably cover it with some plastic wrap and I will put it in the fridge overnight. And then tomorrow we can do the final stages. Making donuts or any other enriched doughs or any breads in fact can be quite a messy process. However, it is so enjoyable, especially when you've got some time on your hands. Well, hello everybody. It's the second day now of the donut recipe. The donut dough has been in the refrigerator overnight. It's now lunchtime. I've been out this morning. I went over to Birchington to see my friend Wendy's shop and do a little vlog as well. Apologies if you hear the two young uns running up and down and meowing a bit. They've got loads of energy, boundless energy in fact, because it's a very cold day today. Miss Robin stuck her nose out, went out for like a minute or two, decided she didn't like it, it was too cold, and she came in. She's a warm weather cat. Arthur went outside for a few minutes and did whatever he needed to do, and then decided he didn't want to stay out either. So the two of them are chasing each other. You may hear either kitty noises or a lot of footsteps in the background. If so, that's the two young uns. It drives Merlin mad. He's 14 and a half and he just wants a quiet life, preferably cuddling up to his mama. So I'd better get started. This is the donut dough. I'm going to take the plastic wrap off and I'm going to turn this dough out onto a board. I also need Mr. weighing scale and a knife. I'm going to cut the dough into 50-gram pieces and form them into balls. Oh, my Rutherford delivery came as well while I was out. The Christmas veg box stuff. We bought quite a bit for the Christmas period. This dough is now nice and stiff. It's stiffened up overnight. It should be far more pliable now, rather than very sticky. And then I'm going to cut it into the 50-gram pieces. The pieces don't have to be exact. You can make the pieces smaller or larger if you like. Roll them, put it aside. Next one. Roll it, put it aside. Roll it, put it aside, and carry on like that until you've done all of them. You can see all the lovely air bubbles there in the dough. This is one of those recipes that might be a bit trial and error, as it has been with me. I'm following the recipe from a BBC Good Food recipe. I've usually used a Nigella recipe, which I actually prefer. This seems very fiddly. However, it's coming together. I needed to add quite a bit more flour last night when I was kneading it. I could probably get away with using a little bit less, but nonetheless it seems to have risen really well. There's lots of bubbles, so that's good. Most of my balls seem to be about 51, and that's fine. You can make them larger, it will just take them longer to cook, that's all. in 2021. Well, that's not bad, is it? So I'm going to show you one of Nigella's tricks, and this makes filled donuts really easy. Before we do the next stage, I'm going to put this non-stick baking paper on a baking sheet. I'm going to line 2 baking sheets in that way, so that when the donut balls have been fully prepped, I will lay them out on the baking sheets, reasonably spaced out so that they've got a chance to rise and not stick together. They're going to be rising for about 4 hours, so it's important to leave enough room between each donut ball. And I'm going to use 2 fillings. Just to be different, I'm going to be using some jam. These are jam sachets. I'm going to do some strawberry jam donuts, and I'm going to do some mincemeat donuts as well. And this is how I do them, and I learnt this tip off Nigella. I have here a teaspoon, which I need for the Christmas mincemeat. We won't be able to put a lot in these because they're only small donuts. You can make large donuts, by the way. You don't have to make them small like this. You can do any size. But these are not too naughty. They're just a little treat. So I'll do this one first. So I'm rolling it in the palm of my hand. And slightly floured. Flatten it. Not too firmly. And I'm just going to put a little bit of the Christmas mincemeat in the middle, like that. There's not even a teaspoon. And then I'm going to wrap it round so that it's fully encased in the dough. You need to work quickly because that donut dough soon becomes sticky again as it goes more towards room temperature. Cover everything over as well as you can. Rub it in a bit more flour if you need to. And that's the first one. And place it on the sheet. And then the next one, press down gently. A little bit of mincemeat in the middle. Bring it over. Encase all the mincemeat again. Just do it gently. You don't want to work the dough too much. Roll it in a bit of flour. And then roll it between your hands. That's next door's dog. Freddy Booze. And there we have it. And we just continue like that. I'll show you the third one. If you find your dough is getting really sticky, you could put some of them back in the refrigerator until you need to roll them out. And I may do that. Just a little bit of mincemeat, fold it over, roll it in the flour, between your hands, lovely, and place it on your baking sheet. Next I'm going to do some jam ones. So I'm going to snip open the jam packet and press the donut a little bit flat and then fold the donut in half to encase all that lovely strawberry jam and into the sides. until it's all encased, every last bit of it, and then I'm going to roll it in the flour and place it on the sheet. The next one, flatten the dough a little bit. Place a squidgy bit of jam in the middle. That's enough. Fold it over. Fold one side and fold the other side. And roll that donut in a little bit of flour. Don't worry if the first one or two are not perfect, you'll soon improve. I haven't done them for a while myself and I'm a little out of practice. Flat, bit of jam on, that's enough. Fold over, fold over, fold over. And roll. And I'm going to continue now, and then I'll come back to you when they're all done. And this is the last one. And they're all done. Don't they look gorgeous? These are the beauties, all done. And I'm going to put my jar of mincemeat now in the refrigerator because I've opened it and it needs to be used up probably in the next few weeks, which will be no great hardship. They've risen well, but they're a little bit sticky. If they do stick to the paper like that, just re-roll them. They're still quite light. I've floured my hands a bit. We'll see what they're like anyway. I'm sure they'll be tasty. I've heated some oil up in the wok, so that's just about ready to go. The recipe I've used said let it rest for 4 hours, but I actually think that was a bit too long. I think there's a few issues with that particular recipe, and in future I will use Nigella's recipe like I usually do. Never mind, these things are worth trying. You sometimes find that with recipes. When you try something new, you find it doesn't work. Sometimes the old recipes are the best. Yeah, that's fizzing up. That's about ready. You don't want the temperature too high, because if the temperature's too high, then they'll be raw in the middle. But if the temperature's too low, then the donuts will be greasy. Anyway, without further ado, let's pop them in. That's nice. We should be able to get a few in. You can of course fill them at the end with a piping bag, but with mincemeat it would be a little bit tricky. You'd need quite a large nozzle for anything to come out the other end. Alternatively, I suppose you could liquidize your mincemeat mixture. That might work. All these things are worth trying. But you can see they're floating on the top, so that oil is perfect. I'm going to get a bowl with some kitchen paper to drain them, and a separate bowl as well with some caster sugar in. We're going to roll them in caster sugar while it's still warm. I have some vanilla sugar here. This is normal caster sugar, and I added a vanilla pod. I'd use the seeds out of the pod, but there's a lovely fragrance left behind. It smells so vanilla-y, if that's a word. I'm just going to put a bit of this in the bottom of a shallow dish. Let's see how they're doing. They're getting nice and brown. Look at those! Whoa! They're nice, aren't they? They sound quite crispy. They're quite successful. These are brown all the way over. So I'm going to drain them. Dan has just said it smells like being at the seaside, and it actually does. I'll put some more in, and then we'll get these coated. And while these are cooking, we can give them a try, see what they're like. I should be able to get all these in here. They're very sticky, but they've fluffed up beautifully. I'm really happy with them. That's one batch done. So let's get these in the dish while they're still hot. Roll them around. Let's break it open. Look, mincemeat. That's a mincemeat one. Nice and fluffy in the middle. Yum. They've turned out really well. So there we are. Delicious, festive donuts. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon for the next one. Bye for now.